Thank you for having me today at home. And yes, I'm happy to share with you my professional journey and also academic experience. Now, I started my academic journey after a brief professional career on the ship as a marine engineer. I also work in the port with mask line, also related to maritime activities. And later I went to pursue a marine technology career. And marine technology is like it's very interesting course at that time. It's a mix of all field of maritime with 60% naval architecture, and the rest 40% are maritime transportation, marine science, science of the waves, and ship construction, and also maritime economics. So that's why it's called marine technology. It's a very interesting course. I went for master's degree on that, and when I finished that, I was then hired by Malaysia Maritime Academy to teach as an expert rate lecturer. And after that, when I was teaching, and then I enrolled to do my PhD in marine technology with mechanical engineering, but with more focus on marine risk. So I become a marine risk expert. I work on how to de-risk marine system before they are built, when they are built, when they have to be operated, and at the end of their life, because the reason was working on land and working at sea is totally different. And from time, only the nuclear industry, the airline industry, they normally work on risk across all the system chain or system process to at least remove all the risk or reduce it or control what they cannot remove. And later, the International Maritime Organization get aggressive about this as well. And the former safety assessment method for system across maritime processes are introduced, and this is what I work on. And also they also encourage the industry to use goal-based approach that focus on objective to achieve a sustainable end for process and also for product related to marine industry. Why? Because the maritime industry is overkill with rules. Why? Because of safety. For many years, there are always like accidents, and they have imposed a lot of rules in a very reactive way. And they now thought that, okay, it's time to start using proactive approach to implement or to implement safety So that was why they become aggressive about using risk, and this is what I work on. And after I graduated with PhD in marine risk, safety and environmental risk and reliability modeling of marine systems, I had to implement or use the model I developed in different maritime areas. This include port, it include renewable energy related to infrastructure close to water resources, it include risk related to operations of marine infrastructure close to the coast or offshore or in deep water. And during this period, then I was later employing the university. I started teaching in the university and conducting research related to first energy and environment because of my background. Then later, I have to switch to working on developing new technology to explore the ocean. Because the resources of the ocean need to be explored, and I started exploring this. And this happened because of the need. It was a need-based situations with local people who are struggling to float devices to cultivate the ocean. And later, during the course of academic period, I did a lot of work on de-risking work, and most of what I did, I published them in close to 280 peer-reviewed journals and 12 books. And that is good because in academic we have a slogan that it's either we publish or perish, and it's good. And I encourage the African to Nigerian to cultivate this approach of publishing their work, because this is a legacy they can leave for other people to also benefit from what they are working on, and to bring awareness, and also to always give them backing when times come to talk about what they have also spent their time with. Yes, writing a book is very challenging. Generally, writing is challenging because most of the time we have the impression that what we teach and what we write is an indication, a measure that we know what we're doing. And this is also a good advice for everybody to try to write something. And writing has been a culture, even from the age when we don't have papers and all of that. Now, the first book was very challenging. My first book was on sustainable maintenance of navigation channel. I basically wrote about how to maintain the passage where ships are passing, and how to make them sustainable, not just dredging, but also to take the marine life into consideration, the ecological life, because these are natural systems that allow us to live. And the book also emphasized on the risk aspect. for people working in this area to properly take holistic risk work that cover everything that surrounds this kind of operations. And for example, most of the time when we try to do this kind of work, the water is struggling. We'll be struggling to go somewhere else, and also the marine animals and all of this. So my book focused on this, and then my book focused on also calculations about how wide how to measure the width of the channel, and also the ship to match it with the ship that can enter the channel. And beside that, later I published another very interesting book on applied safety and environmental risk, and applied safety and environmental risk model for marine systems. And this book is very interesting. It's about 500 pages, and it covers everything we are talking about today about blue economy. At that time, the topic in 2013, when I published this book, the topic was not like this, but I put loads of my experience, my observation from risk related to inland waterways, risk related to dredging, to aquaculture, to deep sea water, to operations of liquefied natural gas ships, risk related to human, because there are always human error also in marine operations, and how to tackle them, and also the use of simulation for marine training. So these are the two very challenging books. And on top of that, I also published other books like Marine Technology and Sustainable Development. It really cover more elements of blue economy as well. It introduced other area like the use of ocean energy, and this was there are also contributions from other authors in this book. The blue economy word was first coined by Gunther Pauli. He's a Belgian. In 2014, and that was during COP number 3 in Japan, and that was when it was first coined. And the blue economy, that in the COP number 3 they were talking about Kyoto Protocol and issues about refrigeration, pollution, ozone layers, and all of that. That was when it was first coined. But later along the road, more and more people started accepting the importance of water, because in daily talk, except in Africa, because in Africa we know water is what water means, and in daily life, normal human being forgets how valuable water is. And for many years, governments and also institutions, society never look much about the value of salt water. We always think it's salty and useless, but when you look at the ratio of the seawater in our planet to the ratio of land and even fresh water, is very high. And it is in this salt water that a lot of life are thriving. They are living, and most of this salt water, maybe 95% of it has not been explored. So beside that, it is also the ocean, this big ocean with the salt water, that most of our waste from land are empty into, and it cures it every day. And so because of all of this, they led to the concept of blue economy, and in most developed institutions, they don't call it blue economy, but a lot of research are done in different directions. And today, I think all these elements and components are being put together now by most governments as blue economy, and I am very happy. Nigerian government come up with a idea of blue economy and maritime. Joining them together is even much more brilliant. And then some other countries like Kenya, for example, and like Tunisia, etc. They are also, because most countries that have water now, they are looking into this. And coincidentally, I'm also doing a project for German government. It's not called blue economy, but it's a component of blue economy. It involves, for example, assessing the risk of introducing new technology into the ocean to cultivate life. And the second component involves assessment of co-production, when we co-cultivate, for example, marine life, for example, fish, seaweed, and wind farm or wave energy. Okay, how do you do this? How do we plan the ocean to accommodate this? And these are not something we can just do like that. It has to be well planned, even especially in European water, for example. There are more congestion possibility, and also in some area it's impossible to implement this because of maybe the past and because of data. So the third aspect is stakeholder engagement and processes, how to engage the stakeholder and how to engage them for acceptability, because eventually, so these three things are also component of blue economy. So now blue economy has evolved. So every country are looking into this now, and they are building strategy to implement this now. And the implementation is going to be different for different countries. It's going to be site-based, it's going to be data-driven, but it is a very, very brilliant approach of integrating systems. Because when you integrate systems, they become more efficient, they also become more cost-effective, and they also provide the opportunity for data sharing, for communication, for things to work together. Just the same thing like different trees, they make magic in the forest. So this is what would be the magic of blue economy, and I think I am glad it evolved, and eventually most of the work I did are just around this, from sailing on the ship to working as a marine technologist to working on developing new technology to farm the ocean, and to involving industries. I involve industry in some project I did related to this, like Technip, like Bureau Veritas, for example, and this is also very key to implementation of blue economy, and also I introduce project-based learning, which is also is going to be key to the way to bring in the workforce to drive the blue economy. Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting and move for Nigeria to come up with a system to combine maritime activities with blue economy, and again, blue economy involve the sustainable use of the ocean resources, the big ocean, and the sustainable use of water resources in a way that it benefits or it produces economic benefit, and it also produces ecological benefits. Like we cannot say that we want to develop and also forget about the ecology. They have made, in some countries, they made mistake about this. For example, they cut trees, and 10 years later, they are looking for birds, and then they started fixing it. So the blue economy is around this too. Like, if there is something need to be restored, okay, that site need to adopt a model, a different model. So different site, the starting point will be site-based, different maritime sites, starting with the component of blue economy, for example, maritime existing systems like ships and ports. This has been what water has been mostly used for, and but there are other activities, water, marine, natural resources can be used for example, the waves, the energy is, even the wind that resort to wave energy. They are forces that we can tap to generate, for example, energy to power our system, and also to distribute them for other places on land. And then the food sustainability, like land use, for example, by producing more protein from the oceans, we can spare more land, because land is very scarce. It's only 30% of the ocean, and we should not be using land to cultivate fish, for example. We should use land to, the ocean to cultivate fish, and then seaweed is another area that many people don't know much about, related to the blue economy under aquaculture. They are more or less called the hidden champion of the ocean in Europe because they can be used to produce food material, food supplement, pharmaceutical, and a lot of other things we use land for. And the starting point now for your question for blue economy will be site-based, will be also use-based, use case-based, and from the use case, like I mentioned earlier, we have to talk about what are the technology and the infrastructure needed for this site. Now, if we deploy this technology and infrastructure, what are the impacts? And here, then we need a stakeholder to involve. Who are the stakeholders to discuss how much interest they have, and to rank the power of their interest and all of this, and to make sure they have what they need to support the blue economy, because this, especially the stakeholder part, is very important, and involving the community in blue economy is also very important because eventually they will be the one to provide a protection that is needed. Why did I say this? Because working on land is totally different from working in the sea. So the starting point will be site dependent. For example, site and infrastructure dependent. If a site already has a terminal that can be used for one of the activities of blue economy, and then this site will require less attention related to infrastructure. And now, the other things is, if a site, we also need to look at what are the history of this site, for example. That is where data will be needed about what kind of wave or wind they have, the water quality of this site, and the biodiversity of marine life, and we need to look at the nature of the seabed, and all of these need to be incorporated into the technology deployment. Now, from my experience, most of the time, the engineer and biologists can hardly work together. Most of the time, there is always a very big friction. But I am one of the persons that break a barrier between engineering and biology. And even we did a project on why the skill set between engineering, biology, and industrial governance are not working, which was sponsored by the British Council. And so that would be the starting point, to look at the site, to look at what they need, and to look at activities that can be done for the site. And now to also look at how the activities will also benefit people that are not close to water resources. For example, what I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of industry very close to most of the river, but there are also lots of industry on land. And most of the time, especially in this age of adaptation, whereby we are trying to adapt to climate change, and also we are trying to review um, past design, because most design of the system did not incorporate climate within the process and biodiversity. And this, for example, the effect and also the use of natural resources that will benefit the industry in terms of bio-based material from the ocean need to also be looked at within the blue economy. Okay, education in Nigeria is I think there is a good systems. I mean, of education throughout. There are many changes over the years from this from A level to 6334, for example, and when you look at the whole process and the program, which is done mostly like every other country, more or less like a top-down program whereby they look at the goal of the country to come up with policies, and then the programs are deduced from this, and from there you have the curriculum for the program. Now, these are all good, and the system is there, but the system needs to be more human. For example, to provide the tools that why research matter, because most of the new things that we teach, okay, beside the curriculum, they are coming from the discovery, the research. So this is very important to take serious in our academic system, and research also require to be funded. But the mentality that okay, there is no need to put money in research, okay, but to rather put money in something that is already working is not the way to be a leader in academic and technology in the world. Now, it is this education system, whether in terms of practical. Another example I have seen in many places in our country, the maintenance culture is very poor, and maybe this needs to be quickly incorporated into education. And when new system, for example, the blue economy system, the blue economy ministry that was a maritime that was just started coming, and then new program need to kick in as well, and they need to be implemented differently. Okay, so this is one thing. The other thing is in many of our villages, a large percentage of our youth go for handicraft, and in this, some part of education is missing in terms of theory, how to implement what they learn. For example, they cannot do breakdown of their work and all of this. So we need to do more about this. And thirdly, is knowledge and education is not about, and also research, is not about doing and put it in the shelf. Okay, we need to look at the applications, okay, to who is going to be beneficial. We cannot simply do research or teach and put everything in the shelf. We must look at how it's going to be continuously be beneficial or support the growing of the person and the system. Because eventually we need to look at how, for example, our data can be translated to products and services that the society are looking for. So this is something that we need to look at, and also we also need to look at how part of the tax that the working class are paying are used to fund our research. Okay, and yes, we need investment, but the moment we are able to do this also, we are able to show that we are doing something serious. Okay, this will also help to accelerate investment. And lastly, the education system mostly like a foundation system, and it depends on the person what they want to build on it. And meaning, even if the system provides everything, we also need to incorporate the programs that will help the student to be able to develop what they learn, and also to be able to be human about what they learn, because education is not only about knowing mathematics, but it's also about how to make decision, the right decision about what is correct and what is wrong, and when to do the right things, and when to be compassionate about our environment, about our friends, about our family, about other people that needs another hand. The end of Millennium Development Goal. Okay, and then there was Sustainable Development, and then later there was Millennium Development Goal, and now the SDG. Really, it was brilliant because it brings it narrowed development into 17 goals with relevant targets for different goals, and especially related to societal problems. And the brilliant thing about SDG is it put them in a graphic format for layman to be able to have some understanding about what the goals are about. From recent stories about SDG, the world is fighting whether they can be met. Eventually, I think maybe in some cases they are implemented in a fragmented method, whereby things are done, development were done differently, and now this is a lot of work to um, to collect all of these fragments and analyze them whether they fit. It's supposed to be a based system-based to be implemented with system-based approach, whereby all the risk within the system, the data are collected and they are ranked, and the priority are identified that, okay, in this year we do this, in this year we do this, in this year we do this. But it was done in a different, fragmented way, and now everybody is fighting whether it's working. And the recent ranking for Nigeria is 160 for SDG index, and again most African countries score very poor, and you can also see this in daily life in African villages, roads. So we have a lot of work to do now, and eventually it is good. We still have a few years now. I think a program like Blue Economy is an integrated system. This kind of system will provide the opportunity for institutions to assess what is working and what is not working. And within the framework of SDG, they will be able to have possibility to get the priority areas to focus on to meet the SDG. Now, this is good for blue economy, and it's also good for maybe green, land-based, or even so. There are groups, and now the SDG 14, for example, is the one that relates the ocean, that is related to the ocean, and SDG 6 is also related to water. Now, maybe another possibility is also bridging the SDG, because they are also interconnected, and in the process of bridging, we can also see the link, if they are probably be bridged or they are broken, and from this gap, possibly it can also help to identify targets that are not met, or targets that and to rank them, and to use the resources that are being the cake resources is being depleted every year, to use them on the most immediately needed areas. Well, I think my philosophy about life is for all of us to understand why we live. There must be a purpose for us to be living, and one reason is to make ourselves happy and to make other people happy, because by making other people happy, we get the best of happiness as well. I believe in this, and I also believe in the fact that just the way our everything is conserved in our planet, everything in life, in what we're doing, is also conserved. There is no leak, so we have to Yes, philosophically, we have to be like this, to think this way, and this has always been very helpful for me. And another aspect philosophically is uh, uh, this will also be a way to build credibility within ourselves by implementing this kind of philosophy. Now, when I was growing up, I took a course in marine engineering because I think I wanted to see the world, and I dreamed. But I have seen dream coming true, yes. And then I also thought that people have been, going places by water from generations, from the beginning of human as well. And now, in between this, I read a lot. When I was growing up, I read everything until I get to a point whereby I just stopped reading and I started writing. And this writing also helped me a lot because it tells a lot about more or less recording your life, how you spend your time. Okay, so these are things that are very helpful and about my success. And the other thing is yes, I found myself in different society from different parts of the world throughout my career, and I think it's always important to have understanding with different culture, to respect different culture, and also to accept the good things and the good people in different culture, because I believe that this is the meaning of civilization, and to be open to know each other, and also to be open to accept those who are good among us, no matter where they come from. And this is what I believe every day. And when I enter new society, I hardly see discrimination, and I deal with discrimination as case by case. I cannot generalize, so it's case by case, and also it's mood based. So because of this, I'm able to have a lot of patience dealing with different characters, different people, different society, and this has helped me. And then when I started working in the university, because of my background, I like to work with industries. I like to collaborate with industries because I think everybody input in a matter is always very, very important to reduce the mistake. And this collaborative approach to doing things has also helped me a lot, and I am still doing that today. And above all, and I am a very, very nature lover, and I think today most of us should learn more from nature, because today now I work more on nature-based technology, and how to incorporate nature into building things. And this is something else that I think will help me again.
Thank you. Well, you already know my name is Steve Omojiafor, and my middle name is Banite. That was the name that my parents gave me at birth, because it was like they regarded themselves as not Lagosians. It is Providence that brought them into Lagos, and I then happened to be born here at Odo Street in Obalende. And in fact, we didn't go to Mercy Hospital then. There was a little home along Odo Street run by a very experienced nurse, Mama Nurse, that's what we, So I was born in that little place, and grew up from there. Like I said, my middle name is Bamidele. My parents probably said, well, we have had you here, but this is not home. As at that time, you will go home with us. No problem. So I started off at St. Matthias Catholic Primary School on Louis Street. And I was in St. Matthias from 1953 till 1960, when we finished with our primary school leaving certificate. Then from there, an extra year at Holy Cross School. We did that extra, they call it prep class. Prepare yourself to go to the secondary school. And from Holy Cross, for 1 year, I moved on to St. Gregory's College, Lagos. Now, growing up in Lagos was one of the best things that happened to us then. Life was good, life was easy, life was safe, life was like everything that a young man could aspire to. We went to school with scholars bus, which was virtually provided for free. When scholars bus was not available, it was fun walking from Obalende, firstly to St. Matthias, and then from there to St. Gregory's College. Life was good, life was safe. You could go out any time of the day. You could play from house to house. Parents knew each other very well. And so, in fact, when you were late somewhere on your street or in your neighborhood, you could sleep there because they would send a message to your home that Dele is here, so don't bother. The next morning you wake up, have your bath, have breakfast, return to your home. There was this community life that we all lived. Parents could discipline children of their friends, okay? Not like these days, you dare not touch any other child. The parents will come and, do a battle with you that I didn't send my child to you to be flogged or to be beaten. So it was a very beautiful life. So went to St. Matthias, went to St. Gregory's College, and then from there to University of Lagos. We were brothers keepers. School was fun. Teachers were all there just to teach you. There was no messing around. There weren't any bad habits that people could be developing along the line, So that was my life growing up. So we were all walking through Balinde to Lafiaji, to Campus Square, to Tokunbo, Okekpopo, So we were children of the neighborhood. We were children of the area. So I'm never ashamed to say I'm an area boy in Lafiaji. You know, today it has become a taboo, but then we were proud of our origin. We were proud of our place of birth, and we were proud growing up in the neighborhood. So today, still believe me, I get up on some Fridays, I just go to Lafiaji, I stay with the guys. Okay, not all of us were fortunate enough to go through the system. Okay, so those who, in quote, we left behind, we still, a lot of the time, we still talk to them, we still relate to them when there are problems that we could fix. You know, we help out. Because, I mean, it wasn't their fortune to be able to have gone. I know some dropped out, you know, on their own volition. But generally, we all like the idea of going to school, but some couldn't make it. But we still relate to them. We are still friends. So I'm not surprised I leave Holy Cross Cathedral and I just hear people call me my names. And I know these people are those who knew me when we were growing up. Let me start by saying that even at secondary school, I read a lot. I was interested in the newspapers. And a lot of the time, I read something, there was always this beautiful column of letters to the editor. So anything that I read that I liked, I sit down, 2-3 paragraphs letter to the editor to compliment what they've done, to criticize what I didn't like, and these things were published. And I liked it, okay? You open the papers and you just see, contributed by Steve Omojiafor, or some will call me Banite Omojiafor. So that kept me getting interested in the media. So when I left secondary school, after higher school, I would just pay a visit to Daily Times, which was in Tinubu, Kakawa Street. I just pay a visit there, you know, and I got talking to people. They would take me to the newsroom, you know. They would just show me how newspapers are produced and all that. That ignited my interest. So when I left higher school, mass communication was what occurred to me. I know that my uncle, you are not doing accountancy, you are not doing engineering, you're not doing medicine, you want to go and become a newspaper boy. I said, yes, this is where my interests lie. So I got admitted to Lagos University and studied mass communication there. And while I was there, I developed a column in Lagos Weekend of those days. Every Friday I was contributing. And I was writing under the name of Akinbodilon. Now, Akinbodilon itself is a name that I picked up in a drama group. Because we had a drama group that we produced all kinds of little plays here and there at J.K. Randall Hall, you know. So one of the roles I played was Akinbodilon. So when I started writing my columns in Daily Times and Lagos Weekend, I just used that pen name, Akinbodilon. You know. So I did the program and I started writing for Daily Times campus news, things that happened during elections, battle between the male and female, problems with the tutors and everything. So it became a very regular program. In fact, I inherited the program from late Ladipo Ogunsawo, you know, who was my boss in the Daily Times. So I did that program for 3 years, became very popular. It got to a point, Vice Chancellor would call me to say, there's a little thing going on in the university. I hope you have covered it for your paper. And I said, I'm not even employed there. I'm just writing, So I left University of Lagos, had all kinds of jobs that one could do, but I headed for Daily Times because I just had developed a path for myself, and that is journalism. Okay, so while in the Daily Times, worked with the Lagos Weekend, went to Daily Times proper and worked there. I was a columnist, I was a sub-editor, and also a reporter. Combined everything. So that was where my interest grew and grew, and it was very painful when I had to leave the Daily Times organization. And what did I go to? Linters, advertising. When I walked into Linters, and I said to the chairman managing director, and I said, I want a job. I said, just like that? I said, yes, sir. Then it was easy to communicate with people. We're not too many, so they listen to you. So he said, what are you doing now? I said, I'm a sub-editor at the Daily Times. So why are you coming to advertising? I want to broaden my space. I want to broaden my experiences. It took about 3 months, and I got a job in Linters. And I remember Alhaji Babatunde Joseph, when I was going to leave, said, look, Steve, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Linters. I said, well, we do the same thing. They package programs commercially. Here we do our papers and we go sell, So I said, okay, sir, let me just go gather some experience at Linters. And Linters and Daily Times were just 5 minutes walk from each other. And I said, sir, if the editor needs me for anything, trust me, I will spend my time and money, do write-ups for Daily Times. So I was like working in advertising and still writing for the Daily Times, So that was my life. From Linters, we set up our own company, known as Roosevelt Advertising Limited. And Roosevelt, was formed by 3 partners, two friends of mine. 3 of us were at Lagos University at the same mass comm department. So we came out, and I left Daily Times to set up Roosevelt. One of my partners left Cadbury to join us, and Akodusi left Admark, another advertising company. So 3 of us came together and we set up Roosevelt. We call ourselves second generation agencies because before then we were the Ogilvy, the Linters, Grant Advertising, and so on. So we set up a small shop in Surulere, and it grew beyond our own imaginations. From Roosevelt, we set up a second line agency called McCann, STB McCann. Got affiliated to a company in America, McCann Erickson. So that was how it all went on. Now, I didn't do banking, and I didn't work as a banker. The interesting story is that one day, while still at Roosevelt, STB McCann then, I got a phone call from somebody I've never met before. And I picked up the call. He said, my name is ABC, blah, blah, blah. And he said, the managing director of Zenith Bank wants to talk to me. So I said, no, there's no problem. I know I'm not owing any bank and all that. He said, no. He just wants to talk to you. So I picked up, he picked up the line and said, my name is this. And I said, my name is this. He said, can we meet? So I said, she, no problem. He said, no. So we agreed to meet. And it got to be that he wanted to appoint a couple of directors for the bank before they went public. And what I said to him was, I'm not a banker. I didn't study finance or economics. He said, no. What I want from you is your name and your integrity. Nothing beyond that. So that was the beginning of the story. So I got onto the board, and I learned a lot. You know, I'm somebody who doesn't get to a place and I want to show them what I know or what I don't know. You could make a fool of yourself sometimes. So for me, like the first 6 months or 1 year was just go to the meeting, listen to them, know where they are coming from, know what the focus is, and know what the expectations are. So I picked it up from there, and gradually I got into the system. Of course, naturally, buy some books on banking, finance, just read, you know, so at least you know how the banks are operating. I've always been a customer of the banks in a very small scale, and all I did was follow the banking trend. You know, there weren't too many banks in Nigeria at that point in time, but I followed through, and that was it. I got onto the board, and somewhere along the line, there was a policy of the central bank. The managing director had to step aside, so to say. The chairman had overspent some time regulated by the CBN, and they approached me and said, you are going to become, at the board, you're going to become the chairman of the board. I said, me? And they said, yes. I've met a lot of people here, so why me anyway? To cut the short story long, I was eventually made the chairman of Zenith Bank. And I was there, I was chairman for 4 years. And then CBN rules changed again. The MD came back, and I was very happy to hand over the bank to him. And I said I was going to leave when he came back. He said no. Statutorily, as he had 2 more years on the board, that no, you got to stay and live out your time. And then, so I did. And after 12 years, I eventually bowed out from the bank and then returned full time to my own job, which I've been known for, and that is the media world. Okay, so I get invited for interviews, for programs here and there. Like you said, it's always a good thing. You have something you have learned over the years, you want to impact it on the younger ones, who are coming. I mean, my first son, for instance, went through the media scene, now in advertising, and I go on encouraging them. I retired from active day-to-day operations about almost 15 years ago, but I'm still keeping pace with what is going on around me. Yeah, I mean, the society itself is very dynamic. There's been a lot of changes over time. I mean, I look back to during my own time in the newspaper world, and I can count just about 4 or 5 newspapers then, okay? Morning Post, Daily Times, The Express, and a couple of others. So we knew each other, we knew the practice, we exchanged news information, we exchanged I mean, if you had a news that was breaking, you know, you want to call up colleagues from other papers, we all go there as a team, right? Because stories will be written from different angles, no matter what you do, you know. So newspaper was great. And it was so good. In the morning, your byline was there, and people were trying to reach you, you know, about the quality. Quality was good. Quality was good. And there wasn't too much of freelancing in those days in the newspaper world. So you were either fully employed or you didn't belong. Same thing for radio. I mean, for instance, television I didn't do much about. While in journalism and in newspaper world, I was writing for radio, okay? Interesting stories. I had, there was a name to this program, the Oddities, Odd World. So we were picking up things that were odd. People that didn't imagine what they were. It's not something that was very common. So we went on doing that. So newspapers were growing, radio was growing, television was growing, and out-of-home media was also growing. And talk about the dynamism of the system. Suddenly, people were now going out of buying a newspaper every day to sit down and hold it in front of you, trying to read from beginning, from cover to cover. Other forms of communication came on. With the advent of mobile phones, things began to change. In our own time, it was the phone you put on the desk and you were dialing it, to, you know. A lot of the time, you could never get across, okay? Suddenly, mobile phone came onto the scene. And news coverage was transformed completely from what it used to be, okay? So now, people on their phone could reach out, you could touch Germany, touch America, touch all parts of Europe, just sitting down in your office to gather information, gather news, what is new, you know? And then, of course, we now had more television stations, no longer NTA alone, okay? Now, with the news stations, things were just expanding. Things were broadening up, and news gathering became something new altogether, and everybody was heading for a new phenomenon altogether. So today, you don't have to be a big guy to be able to tell your stories. Little children tell their stories, females tell their stories, you know. So really we have moved from the days of waiting to read your newspaper to gather your news. Now, with your phone on your palm, you could do wonders all over. But of course, standard also, in some areas, standard will improve. In some areas, standards will go down. Because the multiplicity of media sources create problems. The kind of quality control we used to have in those days was disappearing. And people can build up stories without even being there to know if it is factual or not. So of course, the turmoil that we are going through in the media space now is better imagined. But I still believe that for those who have structures like the one you are building up now, will enable people to know that you got to check, you got to cross-check, okay? I mean, we have laws that control what we say, what you do, what you publish. Of course, they are not as rigid as they should be. So in terms of content these days, you have to ensure that you check your facts before you can believe, what they are saying or make any sense out of them. So really it has become all commerce affair. And this is not going to be the end. The explosion is going to continue. Maybe in a few years to come, we're going to have a stronger media control than what we have now. I mean, people are building content. You go on YouTube, you go on all kinds of media, and you are getting all kinds. What you hear from your WhatsApp is different from what you're going to get in your YouTube. You go to Instagram. People are selling themselves with all kinds of stories. So really, for me, we've gone through the era of sanity in the media, and I hate to say, we've gone into the era where anything you can think of, say it, write it, do it, and for the consumers, it's like you either take it or you leave it. But it's good that we can now reach out much, much widely. I mean, thanks to our mobile news. I mean, you talk to people in any village in Nigeria, and suddenly one thing that didn't grab us so early was you open up your Google map, and you don't have to stop people on the street anymore. Show me where I'm going. Just go to the app, and it leads you to the front of the house you are going to. So we have a lot of improvements, and I think it's going to be improving some more. All we just need to watch is to ensure that we remain truthful and we remain factual, so that we don't mislead people on the street, particularly people in the rural areas. One day you just see everybody running helter-skelter because somebody posted in news that is not correct. So we need to watch that and put some more control. But I like the growth in the media space. When I got into the banking sector, I saw myself more as a customer than a board member. I haven't been a journalist, which I still am. I wrote so much about what consumers or customers were going through in the banks. It was the period of tally number, Remember this commercial, where somebody carried a mat. I said, what are you carrying a mat in the bank? I said, I want to lay down here because I know before I get my money, I will have slept once or twice and woken up, So I was very consumer oriented. When I got into the banking system, a couple of times, my board members will ask me, are you on the board or you are still a customer? I say, first and foremost, I want to remain a customer of the bank. Who will come into the bank and get properly served? Who will come into the bank and feel like human? Who will come into the bank feel important? Because it's your money in the bank. Even if it's only 1,000 naira, it's your money. You need to be treated with some dignity and respect. And that was my mentality that I took into the board of the bank. I said, listen, I am not too happy the way customers are treated. It is their money, no matter how small. Treat them with respect, treat them with dignity. So they started listening to me after some time. And I said, look, customer service is extremely important. In those good old days, you will hardly hear about customer service in any of the major banks. It wasn't there. But gradually, people started being important. It was more of retail. I mean, yeah, you can deal with the big corporate organizations, but at the same time, it is these poor students, poor market women, you know, people who are out there on the street laboring hard to bring their money. So that was one area I was extremely happy that we developed that area of retail banking and being able to make the consumer the king. Okay? So that was part of it. Then, of course, I said to the bank, I said to them, fine, it is very good to make huge profits, okay? But at the same time, the customers that come in here and from their money we make our profits, let us also consider the kind of interest they get for their deposits. Today, when the banks take your money to deposit, okay? No. When you go to the bank and say, I need assistance, I need a loan, and you tell them, give them all the facts and figures, okay? They will tell you, you are going to pay interest of 20%, 23%, blah, 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 blah. When they take your money to put in the bank, they give you an interest of 2%, 3%, 4%. And I just couldn't live with it. I mean, if you are giving me a loan, you're charging me so high. When I put my money there, it's also a loan to you. Why will you leave me with 2 or 3%? And I thought the system wasn't quite right. It was too skewed towards the banks than the customers. So I met a lot of pushbacks, you know, in that area. And I must still say, it's an area I think government should still be interested in. I mean, in the civilized world, interest rate hovers between 3%, 5%. In Nigeria, it goes as far as, I mean, maybe in Africa, not just Nigeria. You know, I know we are developing, but at the same time, let's develop together, you know, for both those that we are taking in their money and for those we are giving money to. So there'll be some level of balance. So I really worked hard in that area. I may not have fully succeeded. You know, then I think finally, one other thing that I think I was able to do at the bank is our staff also requires some upliftment. And suddenly, banks started, you know, employing senior people. They started moving people up. They look more at the system now than just ownership. So generally, of course, more banks have come into the scene. A lot of new banks. So people can spread out and salaries started going up for bankers and all that. But of course, requirements were also extremely high. So generally, I think today we have a much stronger banking system and we are still growing. Now, the bank for a long time have been let loose to do whatever they want to do at the disadvantage of customers, like I started off with. Now, our leaders, and when I say leaders, let me point on just our presidents. The system was such that our presidents could do anything they like with the banks. It was almost an extension of the State House. You just pick up your bell and you ring, and you know, the governor of Central Bank will come shaking, and, because you had the power to bring him in and fire him. So he had to respect everything that the president wants. And it's wrong. This time around, I can say, even in some parts of Africa, you couldn't run the central bank the way we run it here. All the CBN governors wanted to do, please the president, and you are free to do whatever you want to do. And it's wrong. It's wrong. I mean, take even Britain here. Have you ever heard this kind of relationship between the Prime Minister of England and the CBN? No. Everybody has his mandate. In places, in climes like that, the president doesn't call up the central bank governor. Go and do this. Go and do that. Exchange rate should be that. Change your policy to be that. I mean, that's part of the problem we've had in this country. So the last government and their CBN just ran this country to their whims and caprices. You leave your monetary policy. In fact, you were running both monetary and fiscal at the same time. You took the Minister for Finance, for instance, and you have no dealings with him or her. You ran their own programs for them. And you did things that they should do, but they couldn't query you because the president, had your back. So a lot of things went wrong. And the result is now here for all of us to see. So look at the changing of our redesign, what they call redesigning of the currency. Now we know there are so many ways you should have done it. But we put politics and added it into our financial and monetary policies. We wanted to do it specifically to change the course of history. And it is wrong. So today, we now know what's happening at the central bank. In fact, if the true story of what went on in the last 8 years was told, I don't know what will be left of this country. You had this little thing in the Constitution that said the government can borrow from the CBN within certain limits. They call it ways and means. But no. And there was a percentage tied to it. You can't do more than 5%. And by the time you're asking for the new one, you should have paid off. No way. We went on piling up. It's like just go and print the money. What Idi Amin used to do in Uganda in those days. That's the kind of situation we found ourselves. Very regrettable. But I believe some sanity will now come into the space. The new central bank has at least outlined his policies. He has also said, let me keep to my monetary policy, which is my area, and leave the paperwork and how they want to run it, leave it with the, with the people who deal with the fiscal area. So we want a change. We think things should change. Now, before now, we borrowed and borrowed without thinking about how are we going to pay? Who are we leaving this debt for? Now we know it's for you and me to still do our work, put in as much money as we can, no matter how little, into the bank, and revive the banking industry. Okay? So the CBN has its own role, and my prayer and my wish is that they will keep their own part of the bargain, leave other people, The Minister for Finance has said it that much. We should, we all know, simple economics. You don't borrow money to pay your debt. You borrow money for production. You borrow money to fix things like your oil maintenance and all that. Where our money should be coming from. That's what you borrow money for. You don't borrow money for wastages. You don't borrow money to satisfy your whims and caprices. You don't borrow money to just go out there and waste it. Now, you borrow money to pay back your debt. At the end of the day, we are back lower than where we started off from. So really, my appeal to both the president and his cabinet, particularly those that do with finance, give them some room. You put them there because you think they know what they're supposed to do. Give them the space. If it goes breathing down their neck, at some point, it will just be, president said so, president said, even things that the president did not say, the president said so, and it's got to be done. And we are running a country. Even when you run your home, you are able to sit down with your little income and plan. Every day we are being told, if you earn this much, use this little bit, keep the rest in the bank, because you never know about tomorrow. So that's where we found ourselves, and I believe that if everything goes right, we should see massive changes from what it was, the last 8 years. We need drastic changes in the system. My mom in Obalinde used to say to me, when I want to be lazy, he will make sure you do what she wants you to do, and he will remind you that hard work doesn't kill. It is laziness that turns you into an inconsequential human being with no sense of direction. We grew up learning hard work, both in school and out of school. I, for instance, hawked on the streets of Lagos with my mom. You leave St. Gregory's College, now not primary school, St. Gregory's College. You come back. My mother was a textile seller. Got it, probably went to Balogun, pick up. When I come back from school after my lunch, get a basket full of cloth, which I put on my head, and we go from street to street. My mother is carrying her tape rule and another measurement stick, and we'll go around Obalinde, Igboshere, Bamboshe, Oshodi. and we were selling. From there, she graduated to owning a shop in Balogun. When I leave school, I was her accountant, so to say, bookkeeper. All the things they sold, I make, keep the records and everything. I helped her take the money to the bank. It was Barclays Bank, what was it called then? Yeah, Barclays Bank, before it became Union Bank in Balogun. So I have learned how to trade. I've learned how to make money. I've learned how to deal with customers. Plus that, I was also a bread seller. Somewhere along Strachan Street off Igboshere, there was a big bakery owned by the Lawson family. To be able to get enough bread, you got to get there between 5 and 6 in the morning. Okay? So let me cut it short. We learned to work hard. And that working hard continued with us up till where we are today. We also were very straight-minded in terms of what we wanted to be. We played pranks, so we went out to play football, we went out to, to play with the girls and everything. But at the end of the day, you returned home. And our parents didn't spare the rod. They didn't. You came back later than you expected to. They would lie you on the floor and dealt with you. So the combination of the kind of upbringing and the kind of training we went through home probably kept us where we are. And like I said to you before we started the interview, you knew that if you finish your primary school, secondary school is the next thing. If you finish secondary school, you don't know what you were reading for. Not until probably when you got to the university did it occur to you, okay, I got to choose a profession. But all along, we just did it because that was what the system and the environment asked for. So, secret of success, hard work, hard work, hard work. No. I had a father who was very finicky about appearance. When I lived on Igboshere Road, our church was on Louis Street, so to say, walking distance. He taught me how to wear full agbada right from primary school, secondary school. I mean, today, you just wear buba and shokoto, you go to church. Never was that happening. It's got to be full, right? Then from there, by the time you got into, my father died while I was in university. Before then, he was always having this very thin bow tie, not this bigger one, bigger sizes now. Thin, even when his dress is khaki, he still had it on. So I admired him, but initially I was on my long tie, up till a point, and I looked back at some photographs we took when we were in the secondary school, and I thought, no, let me go back to those old days. Some people tell me it makes you look old. I said, I don't mind, but these days I have just acquired that fashion taste, which has suddenly become my, what do you call it? Become what I'm known with. And I enjoy it. And I encourage people, once in a while, put on your bow tie. It makes you look good, makes you look impressionable, it makes you look a serious person, and it makes people take a second look at you. I think, number one, parents started sparing the rod. Call it civilization, call it growing up and all that. Parents started sparing the rod because they always whipped us to shape. You knew what was expected of you, and you did it. Because if you didn't do it, your punishment is waiting for you. But as we grew up, I mean, you probably will ask me today, do I use the rod for my children, for instance? And the answer is no. And why it is no is that these days the children look up to you. They are more exposed than what we were. More exposed. They know what daddy does. If you show them a bad example, they will repeat that bad example. If they know that when daddy wakes up in the morning, before he goes anywhere, he kneels down to say his prayers. They too unconsciously will copy you. If they know that when dad goes out, he comes back certain time. He doesn't come in at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Subconsciously, they too will know there's something that this old man sees that doesn't make him go out all night. So they copy from us. But then, like people say, I don't know how correct it is, that these days people are so busy looking for money, they all over the place, they abandon the home to nannies and housemates and all that, and the children a lot of the time are on their own. But people like you and I, for instance, probably had housemates in the house. You see, but the work that the housemaid does, we were also made to do it. Right? Washing our plates, staying in the kitchen to see how things are prepared. They took us through it, even if you didn't have to do it yourself. And that's why you and I are what we are today. But for the modern young families, most of if there's some money to back it up, no, the children don't touch a lot of housework in the homes. They can go out anytime they like. They can wear, I mean, you see some little young girls and what they wear. In fact, even to the church, you want to ask yourself, aren't their parents home to see what the children are wearing, particularly the female. Even the guys wearing what they, think they don't use the belt, the trouser would just be somewhere on their hips and all that. Yeah, I mean, we want them to express themselves, but within control. So wrapping up on that, I'm going to say, yes, we grew up under stronger control. Today's parents are so much in love with their children. They don't want to make them unhappy. You don't want to, pick up a stick and hit them. But I don't quarrel with that. But please be there for them when they need you. And don't be scared to talk to your parents. To talk to your children. No, we should never be scared to talk to them. Because they are not going to take us over. They are our children. So what you don't want them to do, communication, extremely important. Talk to them. Let them, because peer pressure is extremely strong out there. You know, they're mixing with so many guys from much even richer homes who have more to spoil their children with. Now you are a moderate family, your moderate children have to mix and relate and go out with guys with stronger economic background. There is, you know, there is some disconnect there. Let's bring our children closer. Let's talk to them. A lot of parents don't talk to their children, and it's not right, because the more you talk to them, the more they have that empathy for you. They know you care for them. They know, I mean, because you have been moderately successful, for instance, they too want to be successful like you are, and all you are saying to them, follow my footsteps and you may not go wrong. And don't make wealth, money, the thing that should govern your homes. No, don't spoil the children. You know, give them adequately what we all need to survive, and they will survive. You know, I mean, in those days, while all you needed to take to school was 1 shilling, okay, you still see children from rich homes who came with £1 and stuff like that. But let's be contented. Let's teach the children to be contented with what we have. You know, families are growing, society is expanding, you know, and because they can reach out to any part of the world now, we need to bring them closer to the home. At least up till the time that they are leaving you to go and start up there. But as long as they're still within your influence, it's very important that children and their families come much, much stronger together. I'm going to start with sports. I was an avid squash player. Okay, back in school, a bit of football, a bit of tennis, and all that. But when I started growing up seriously, I loved squash. And I played squash until I was over